I'm Shahar Azani, and in the news, extending Israel's sovereignty to parts of the West Bank. The Trump peace plan, or as it's officially called, Peace to Prosperity, a vision to improve the lives of the Palestinian and Israeli people, is the proposal by the Trump administration to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. President Trump formally unveiled the plan in a White House press conference a few months ago on January 28, 2020, alongside Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. At the end of May, Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel will not miss, and I quote, a historic opportunity, end of quote, to extend its sovereignty to parts of the West Bank, calling the move one of his new government's top tasks. Palestinians consider such a step as illegal annexation of occupied land they seek for a future state. Recently, the Palestinians declared an end to security cooperation with Israel and the US in protest at the plan. Netanyahu pledged to put Jewish settlements and the Jordan Valley in the West Bank under Israeli sovereignty. He has set July 1st as a starting date for cabinet discussions on the issue. What is the US's position on the matter? A US Jerusalem embassy spokesperson stated last month that the US is prepared to recognize Israeli actions to extend Israeli sovereignty and the application of Israeli law to areas of the West Bank that the vision foresees as being part of the state of Israel. But according to the US, such a move should be done within the context of the plan. In exchange for the US recognizing Israeli sovereignty over areas the vision earmarks as part of Israel, Israel has agreed to freeze all settlement activity for the next 4 years in areas the vision earmarks for a future Palestinian state, and negotiate with the Palestinians in good faith on the basis of the vision. Such was the statement of the spokesperson. He continued and said, "This will give the Palestinians an opportunity to come to the table and negotiate a peace agreement that will result in the establishment of a state of their own. The US stands ready and willing to offer wide-ranging assistance to facilitate a final peace agreement." To discuss this important matter and more, I'm excited to have with us all the way from Israel on JBS, IDF Major General retired Yaakov Amidror. General Amidror is a senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategic Studies, JISS, and at JINSA Strategic Center in Washington, D.C. Amidror was formerly the National Security Advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as the head of the National Security Council from 2011 to 2013. During his 36-year career in the IDF, Major General Amidror served as commander of the IDF military colleges, military secretary for the Minister of Defense, director of the Intelligence Analysis Division, and as intelligence officer for the Northern Command. Major General Amidror received a master's degree in political science from the University of Haifa and has authored several books on intelligence and military strategy, including Winning Counterinsurgency War, the Israeli Experience. General Amidror, thank you for speaking with us today.
You are most welcome, and I am glad to speak with you.
There is so much I want to ask you, so let's begin. The first I want to ask, for the benefit of our viewers, what is exactly the West Bank territory over which Israel is supposed to extend its sovereignty? Is there a specific map of it, or is it, as some state, no more than just a general concept at this point?
As far as it is out of the public, there is only a concept. About the details, there are still negotiations between the Israeli government and the American administration. It is clear that there are two different issues. One is annexation, and the other one is the establishing of the Palestinian state. But the exact boundaries and the locations and the marcation on the maps is still under the negotiation. At least in the public, it's not known.
And when you say negotiations, you mean between Israel and the US?
Yes, the team from the administration, from the White House, and team from the Israeli National Security Council.
And is there any, do you know what will be or what's expected to be the status of Palestinians who reside in those areas when they are determined? Are these expected to become full Israeli citizens, residents, or is there any other word?
It very much depends on the amount of the areas which will be annexed to Israel. There is a big difference between annexation of the Jordan Valley, in which there are very few Palestinians, or annexation of huge part of the majority of the areas in which there are Jewish settlements, and there the number of Palestinians is bigger. I don't know the exact number. The question is what annexation, what will be annexed, and this is very much connected to the ability to give an answer to your question.
Right. It seems that there are those in the Israel Defense Forces, in the IDF, as well as Israel's security establishment, who believe that the move is harmful to Israel, and it may result in a regional flare-up, which will end up hurting Israel. How much, in your opinion, of this issue is professional, strategic, security-related, and how much of it is political?
I think that the whole issue here is a political one. Remember that Menachem Begin, as prime minister, didn't give any information or didn't take any advice from anyone in the professional level when he negotiated with the Egyptians about the peace treaty and giving back the whole Sinai. It was agreed before anyone in the system even knew about it. The same is about Oslo. Prime Minister Rabin went to Oslo, signed an agreement without taking any advice from anyone in the professional level. And it is true about Prime Minister Arik Sharon when he decided about the unilateral retreat from the Gaza Strip. He didn't ask anyone in the professional system. And here we see another example when a politician is making a political decision, and then the professionals will have to come in and to say what is the best way to preserve the Israeli security and the capability of the IDF to defend the Israelis, but the decision will be taken in the political level as those kind of decisions had been taken during the 72 years of the existence of the State of Israel. It's a political level, should be done by the politicians, not by the professionals.
Right. You know, it's very interesting when you mention these examples, which come to mind. Of course, the agreement with Egypt is perceived to be a huge success to the region, but the Oslo process, not so much.
Yes, but in all the three examples, you see that the political decision makers are making decisions, which is why they had been elected, without even asking the professional experts in those areas, because this is by definition the definition of a political decision.
Right. Assuming the Prime Minister is going to push through on his plan to extend Israeli sovereignty and law, what's your estimate as to the reaction from Arab states? Jordan, of course, Egypt, as well as other actors in the Gulf and beyond with whom Israel has seen some progress over the recent years.
No question that Jordan is the most relevant one and very sensitive to such decision because of the amount of Palestinians in Jordan and the reaction in the street, which will not be easy for the king to overcome. So this is the most problematic country that the reaction might be a severe one. I think that Egypt has much bigger problems today. They have to face the problematic situation in Tripoli, around Tripoli, in Libya. They have to deal with the big dam in Ethiopia, which will harm their ability to use the water of the Nile. And I'm not sure that Egypt is so sensitive to the Palestinian issue as Jordan is. So I don't think that the reaction in Egypt will be as severe as in Jordan. And when you go far from those two countries, the reaction will be minimal. The problems will arise around the reaction of Jordan and, of course, the Palestinians.
Do you feel there is a significant fear for toppling the Hashemite regime in Jordan if indeed the region flares up to such an extent where Palestinians who are significant in the Jordanian population may rise against Jordan?
No, I think that this is not in the spectrum of the reactions. It will bring challenges to the king, but I don't think that the king will be toppled because of that. He will have to reaction to buy the goodwill of the street, but I don't see him being toppled by the Jordanians population.
It was also interesting to see that King Abdullah expressed willingness to meet with the alternate prime minister, but not with the current prime minister. He was willing to meet with Benny Gantz, but not with Benjamin Netanyahu.
I don't know, but if it's true, it's one of the ways to show that you don't like the idea of the annexation, and the annexation is going together with the name of the current Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu.
Right. Let's talk for a minute about the Palestinians. Israel's policy vis-a-vis the Palestinians, West Bank and Gaza seems to have been some sort of divide and rule. What are the chances that Israel's current move or potential move of extending sovereignty might be an ultimate Palestinian unifier? How is it expected to affect the Palestinians?
No, I think that you have a big mistake. We didn't interfere in the relations between the Palestinians. It's not us who elected the Hamas in Gaza, and it's not us who are supporting their existence there in different kind of regime from the Palestinian authority in the West Bank. It was a Palestinian decision. It might change the situation, it might not. The fact that they are not united is because of issues within the Palestinian society, not because Israel. So if they will find solutions to the problems that they don't agree about, it will be they will unify. But if the problems will remain, and I don't see them changing because of the decisions of the State of Israel, I don't know why it should be make their life easier to unify.
And what do you think their reaction is going to be if indeed Israel goes ahead with this move? Aside from cutting the security coordination to a degree, isn't it true to say that the West Bank's rule by Mahmoud Abbas is very much dependent on that collaboration with the IDF?
It's not that his rule is dependent on the collaboration. It's the fact that we are fighting the same enemy, and by we arresting and stopping every every move of Hamas inside the West Bank, because it's our interest, we are helping Abu Mazen because they are the enemies as Abu Mazen as well. So it's not that we are doing it to save Abu Mazen and now we will stop to do it because we don't want Abu Mazen. We will continue to fight Hamas because we don't want Hamas to have a strong footprint in the West Bank. We don't want to allow Hamas to build its capability in the West Bank, and we don't want to see terrorist cells of Hamas in the West Bank. So we will continue all our efforts as it was in the past, and Abu Mazen is gaining from that, but we are not making it for Abu Mazen, we are making it for ourselves.
And to what extent do you estimate a change on the ground as a result of such a move by Israel vis-a-vis the Palestinians? What do you think the extent of Palestinian reaction going to be?
I think that first our intelligence and all our efforts on the ground will be more complicated, because without the cooperation of the security forces of the Palestinians, our work on the ground will be more complicated. Will be from time to time clashes with the Palestinians forces, because if with no coordination, we will have to go and to continue our efforts to contain Hamas and to arrest Palestinians inside Palestinian areas. And without the cooperation, they will be surprised and we will be surprised. So it will be much more complicated. About the other issue, I think that the main problem is the fact that the Palestinians are responsible for law and order in the West Bank. And if that will be stopped, we will face a chaotic situation that will make our life much more problematic when we have to stay and to continue our efforts to contain Hamas and at the same time not to let the Palestinian Authority to be a source of terrorism.
It's very interesting, the extra, as if the situation is not complex enough. It was interesting to hear that there are those even within the settlers movement who came out very strongly against the move. To our viewers, why would the settlers object to Israeli sovereignty? Hasn't this been the lifelong dream of the settlement movement?
Yes, but there are people that if they don't get 100% of the dream that they have in mind, they don't agree to take the 75% of the dream. There were people that didn't celebrate in 47 when the United Nations gave us the sovereignty in part of Eretz Israel, and Ben Gurion was smart enough to say, "I'm taking what you offer me, and then we will see what to do with the rest." There are people who are not as smart as Ben Gurion.
So their main objection, in your opinion, is the fact that the Americans are tying it into the entire Trump plan as establishing a Palestinian state?
And the fact that this is number one issue, but the second issue, which for them is not less important, is that there are some settlements that will remain as enclaves within the Palestinians area. And they understand that those enclaves doomed to disappear one day.
I want to ask you something about the U.S. administration. There are those who claim that President Trump's moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and now possibly extending Israeli sovereignty under the Trump peace plan in the West Bank, it's all geared towards showing the Palestinians that, as opposed to what happened in the past, their inaction will come at a price, at a cost for them. Things will change on the ground. What's your take on this approach?
I think that this is something that according to the tradition of the United States of America negotiation system and culture, it is very understandable. But if you ask me if in the Middle East it will help to change the Palestinians to make them more flexible, it will surprise me. So I think that here you see some very smart American moves that have a very significant, influence on the ground. But knowing the Palestinians, I'd be very surprised if that will make them more flexible.
All right. Well, time will tell. Lastly, I want to ask you just a kind of bottom line question. Do you think Israel should move forward with extending its sovereignty over the areas in the West Bank?
There is one important result that might come from this plan of President of the United States of America. And this is after many, many years in which too many people had in mind a solution based on 67 line. Here comes a president of the United States of America saying, I'm for a Palestinian state, but what should determine the borders and the boundaries of this state is not the 67 line, it is more important the situation on the ground. And the fact that the Americans formally are ready to give a strong factor to the facts on the ground are very important for us. So for too many years, people intend to think that there is only one solution based on 67 line. Nothing happened based on this assumption. The old paradigm didn't work. And here we have a new paradigm that might be the beginning of a big change by giving the situation on the ground a stronger momentum in any negotiations in the future. I think this is the best benefit that we can get from the administration offer, what called the American deal, the change of the paradigm that didn't work in the past.
Thank you, General Amidror, for being with us and for your perspective and insight into a most important issue for so many of us here in the US and, of course, in Israel. And thank you for your service for the state of Israel and the Jewish people. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Lastly, our viewers, I would like to leave you with some food for thought. Regardless of where you stand on this matter, it seems like, once more, the negotiations are conducted between Israel, the US, and the European Union. Isn't it amazing that Palestinian position is argued once more for them while they are completely absent from the negotiating table, refusing even to engage with Israel or the United States of America? And nobody in the international community, aside maybe from the US, seems to be telling them out loud to sit and negotiate with Israel. And maybe that's the problem, that as long as the desire to negotiate and reach peace with Israel doesn't emanate from the Palestinians, as long as they themselves don't see a settlement with Israel as a need and necessity, and as long as Palestinian intransigence is not only tolerated, but encouraged, we are all doomed to move in endless circles. Remember this: peace can only be made in Jerusalem and Ramallah, not in Stockholm, not in Geneva, and not in New York. Thank you all for watching, and to all, stay safe and stay healthy. I would like to thank our director, Sloan Copeland, JBS's managing director, Dara Golub, our technical manager, Michael Paley, transmission manager, John McDevitt, and to our producer of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. For JBS, I'm Shahar Azani. Until next time, shalom and lehitraot. See you soon.